Glaminatrix Cosmetics is on a roll. We have another beautiful palette called Timeless Tones, and they did switch it up a little bit with this packaging. I love the pattern on this. I'm so excited to see a cool tone palette from Glaminatrix. They have done so many beautiful neutral palettes, some more colorful palettes as well. And we don't only have browns, but there's blue and teal, making this palette very versatile. So you can do a really neutral look, but you can also add just a little bit of pop of color. There's 3 iridescents, and then this shade is more of a topper, but you can get it to be a little bit more opaque. And then the shades over here have a little bit more opacity with the ability to sheer these out just a little bit. And there's one baked shade just like in the Nearly Natural palette, and I will be showing you detailed swatches of all the shimmer shades as well as comparisons between some of the other Glaminatrix palettes, shimmers and mattes included. And I did receive this palette in PR and is launching today, June 7th at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be the same price as the Barely Basic, which is about $63 depending on conversion rate. And I do have an affiliate code now with Glaminatrix Cosmetics that you can use out that I will pop up on the screen. Thank you so much if you do use my code. There's one more product launching new to Glaminatrix Cosmetics, and that is brushes. So excited. All of these are eye brushes. There's 8 brushes in total, and they do come as a bundle, and they do come in a really cute fall leather case. So I'll be using most of them in this video for the tutorial so that you can see how I would use them and how they perform. So let's get right into the video. I'm going to be swatching these 2 at a time. This is Classy and Effortless, both very smooth. And they just swatch so nicely. They do feel dry, no squish at all. Classy is a pink with blue flecks throughout it, and it shifts to yellow to green. Effortless does have a little bit more of a base to it that is mostly seen on an angle. It looks like a pinky purple. Straight on, it's a very gold, but maybe a little bit more towards like a pale yellow gold, and then it shifts all the way to green, and it shifts teal, green, and purple. Next up is Expensive and Delicate. You can see that these have just a little bit more of a texture. Specifically, Expensive has just a little bit larger particle size. I would say both of these are pretty PC though. Specifically Delicate, I would recommend a tacky primer to just help these to really adhere, but they really smooth out super easily and they don't feel wet. Expensive is a bright cobalt blue straight on, shifting to purple, and magenta on a really harsh angle. Delicate is a silver, but has a little bit of dimensionality. The way the light reflects off of it, it creates that depth, so it looks lighter in some sections and darker in others. I do see a little bit of a brown base on the shade. Dignified and Everlasting, both super reflective and sparkly. I would say especially Dignified. These two do feel just slightly different from Classy, Effortless, and Expensive. They have just a little bit more of a thicker feeling to the touch, but they're going to swatch, yep, so beautifully. And you can shear this one out just a little bit. This is a beautiful green, warm brown, reddish brown based, and I see a magenta shift, a little bit of blue in between there as well, while Dignified is a rosy gold. And I do think that this one, you can especially see the sparkles kind of sitting on top of the base. This one you could use as a little bit more of a scattered effect because of that, or you could have it be fully opaque. Next up is Exquisite and Grace. And Grace is a baked shadow similar to that shade from the most recent palette that I forget the name of. So it does have a very similar feeling. It feels a little bit thicker to the touch, while Exquisite feels a little bit more lighter and drier. Oh, that one is so shiny and so shifty. And then so this one has a little bit, you can kind of see it has a little bit more drag to it, but it's super pigmented. It's very similar. It's a black with silver flecks on top, so it looks more like a charcoal than like a true black. Exquisite has a blue reflex straight on, and it shifts to purple with a little bit of a yellowy orangey base there. You can really see it here on at the angle. primed with the Ulta Beauty eyeshadow primer, and I'm actually going to be doing this a little bit differently, and I'm going to be doing both of the eyes at the same time. I'm basically going to be using the greens and the blues, but I'm going to be doing the same exact kind of eye shape, so I do want them to match. And I'm going to be using the new Glaminatrix brushes. These feel so nice. I love that they're very light. I love the wooden handle. I love that there's like a little kind of indentation here. So these are the 5 brushes I definitely plan on keeping because they're nice and small. There's 3 other brushes. This one is the EO1. This is just like a really large kind of blending brush, and I just know I'm not going to use this kind of brush. And then this is an angled brush. I have so many of these at this point. I really shouldn't be keeping any more. And then this third brush, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be keeping. It is pretty fluffy. It's definitely going to be good for applying shimmers, but I just feel like I don't know if I will really use it that much. I feel like if it was maybe a little bit more pointed versus kind of flat at the top, I would be more likely to use it. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to be keeping this one and or using it. So I'm taking Glamour, and I'm going to pop that onto the outer corner on this eye. And I'm just going to kind of blend it outwards, really blow it out. And then I'm going to wipe off the brush, and I'm going in with Classic. And I'm going to kind of deepen that up just in the very corner of the very crease. And then just slowly blend it outwards. Wiping off the brush, and I'm picking up Elegant. I do wish there was a shade to maybe blend this one out just to kind of be more even with how there is another lighter shade, the tone of the green, or the teal rather. So I'm just kind of putting that here. Should give me still a really similar effect. But I do feel like, I think I'm going to take Refined actually. And I'm just going to use that on the edges of that to kind of lighten it up there. I think that was pretty good. I'm going to go back in with Elegant and just blend it out. Next, I'm taking this brush. This one is EO8, and I'm taking Vintage, and I'm just gonna pop that onto the outermost corner. I really want to start slow so I have room to build it up and out and blend it out so it doesn't take over the whole look. And I'm gonna be kind of just keeping that on this very outermost corner, and not really trying to bring it out too far into the lid and also onto the outer corner. I mean, look at how easily that blended. I have just a tiny bit of fallout over here that I can see. Wiping off the brush and taking Suave, and I'm popping that on the outer corner and just basically reflecting what I did on the other eye. So just kind of tapping out. This brush is so perfect for this. It's so small, I love it. You know, I love me some really teeny tiny brushes. And then I'm just gonna connect it to my lower lash line a little bit, but trying to really keep it controlled. I feel like this brush is really good for not only putting it down, but also then blending it out, because it has like a little bit of stiffness to it, but not like too much, and it's also not too flimsy. So I feel like that's looking pretty good and pretty even. So I'm gonna go in with Everlasting here and Exquisite here. And then on the inner corner, we'll highlight it according to color. Taking the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer with me and Clionadh's collab. And I'm just gonna pop that almost all over the lid. And this does dry down pretty quickly, so I like to do one eye at a time. So I'm taking Everlasting on this E05 brush. And it's actually a little bit dirty from using it the other day. And I'm just gonna pop this green shade. It's kind of like a merge in between. And I'm gonna take it on an angle and bring it up a little bit in here, but not all the way up into my crease. And then I'm gonna be using the pencil brush, the EO, I can't read that, it's really hard to read, EO4 I think. And I picked up Effortless, and I'm gonna swoop that up in here and up in here, and then I'm gonna hug this shade and then just kind of merge them together, just like that. Moving on to the other eye, again using the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer and just tapping it on, and then same brush, wiping, really making sure I'm wiping it off, taking Exquisite right over here. Oh my god, it's so shiny. Oh, that's so pretty. It's so glowy too. I love this. And then again, wiping off the pencil brush and taking Expensive and popping that in here. This one is a little bit flaky, so it's probably going to take a little bit more pressure. And just doing the same thing. It actually looks a little bit similar. It's like more purple, basically. For the blush, I'm going to be using the Blend Bunny Masterclass palette in collaboration with Jordan Liberty. And oh, I can't bend this backwards. I'm going to be going in, I think I'm going to use Afterglow, which has just like a little bit of a sheen to it. And I'm going to be using the Blush Light brush. And I did receive both these products in PR. Oh, that is actually very pigmented, seems like. Just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna go in with more. Definitely buildable, which I do really like that. I don't know if I love the feel of this brush. There's something about the bristles. The bristles seem like the material of them doesn't really want to hold on to the product, the powder. Here's what Afterglow looks like. Here's the first finished look. Here's the second finished look. First, I'm going to touch on the brushes. I love that these are smaller blending brushes. I feel like a lot of brands come out with eye brushes and they are all on the larger side, even when they say that they are hooded eye friendly. I definitely usually disagree with that, but these are definitely hooded eye friendly. There are a couple of the brushes that I mentioned in the beginning of the tutorial where I talked about some of the ones that are a little bit too large for my personal preference, but I'm really enjoying these. There is one brush, specifically the EO7. It has really long bristles and they're rather flimsy, so this is definitely really good for mostly just like a wash of color in the crease. So I don't know if I'm gonna get necessarily too much use out of this one, but it is nice to have for sure when you really want just a little bit in the crease. But this is definitely not a brush that will pick up and put down a lot of product. It's not really meant for that. I'm really enjoying the rest of these. I especially am really liking the pencil brush. I always love me a pencil brush. And then also the EO8, this little, almost tiny little blending brush. It's not quite a pencil brush because it's not pointed. This one is so good for detailed outer corner work or just deepening out the crease and being really precise. And I also really do like the EO5 because this one is great for really strategic placement of shimmers. This one picks up this formula of shimmer really nicely, puts it down really nicely as well. But of course I do have to test out the brushes some more. So let's talk about the eyeshadow palette. If I only had to use eyeshadows from 3 brands, Glaminatrix Cosmetics would be one of them. I have been just loving their most recent eyeshadow palettes within the last year and a half. I've just been really loving the color story and I've been loving the quality. I love these shimmers so much. They're so beautiful. They pick up with a brush or with a finger and put down really nicely. I do recommend a tacky primer, especially if you have hooded lids and you tend to have fallout. The mattes are beautiful, the shimmers are beautiful. I think everything at this point has been just mastered for them in the past few palettes, and they stay in my top drawer. Palettes I reach for on a day-to-day basis because I know I'm going to have a really great time with the mattes and I'm also going to love the shimmers. And I love that we have a nice level of some more sheer shimmers, some more opaque shimmers. So you have a little bit of everything, which really helps to create that versatility. I'm definitely adding this palette into my everyday drawer because I know I'm going to be reaching for it a lot. It has a lot of different things that I look for when I'm getting ready for work in the morning. And I want to reach for an eyeshadow palette that has a little bit of everything that I'm looking for. There is a mid-tone matte, there's a lighter matte, there's a deepening up matte, there's some sheer shades and some iridescent shades. So this is definitely another great hit from Glaminatrix. There are only 3 kind of critiques I have of this palette. One of them being that Grace is super similar to the baked shade that's in the Nearly Natural palette. And of course, not everyone is buying all of their palettes, so you might not have experience with that one, so you can have it in here. But I do feel like it's just a little bit redundant, while the other shade is a little bit more, I think, opaque and much more silvery flashing than this one. Like it has a lot more of the silvery sparkles throughout it than this one. I just feel like they're a little bit too similar and I could have done without it in this palette. I would have rather this this would have been just another kind of shimmer, maybe another kind of this type of more neutral shimmer, maybe just like a different tone. But that is really just a personal preference and a really minor thing. The other two things are, I don't think we needed all of these super bone colored shades. I think we could have done with like Lady, and then maybe this one and this one had been switched out. I feel like they're a little bit redundant, even though they're different tones. I think that they're just not going to show up on every skin tone, and I feel like at this point I can just reach for a setting powder. And then the only other comment I have is something I noticed when I was doing a look before work, and I was using the shade Dignified and Delicate, and I was using the brush to apply it on top of the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer, and because I was using the brush, it creates a little bit more of a scattered effect, and because of that I noticed how similar those two shades are if you are using them in that way, because they do both have a very similar kind of silvery reflect to them. So if you apply them very sheerly, they will have a very similar look. But I think if you apply Dignified in a more opaque manner, then you'll see the tonal difference in the base, because this one does not have a base. So I think they would look a bit different. But even with those small nitpicky things, I'm really enjoying this palette, and I definitely see myself using it a lot. I can see so many different looks I can create with it on a day-to-day basis. And again, I really like the formula of both the mattes and the shimmers. So let me know in the comments below if you plan on picking this up or the brushes. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you like this kind of content, you love swatches, comparisons, tutorials, then definitely check out some of my other videos, which I will put up on the screen. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.